Pancake lenses are good options because they are highly portable, and this video is about one of the most popular pancake lenses ever, the Canon EF 40mm f2.8 STM. Does it stand the test of time? How are its optical performances? We will find out in this video because I will go through 12 aspects from physical features to image quality tests towards the end. Let's start with the first thing, build quality. It's a small lens, inexpensive, but I always liked its build quality, which is quite solid. It comes with a metal mount, the switch for turning the autofocus on or off, and the focus ring that turns very smoothly. The tiny front element means that we will be less prone to accidentally scratch the glass, and being a prime lens, there aren't many things that could break. And even if it doesn't have the weather sealing gasket, if we don't leave it in the rain or accidentally drop it, it could easily last for more than 10 years. Compatible cameras. It has the EF letters in its full name, which means that it was made for Canon's full-frame DSLRs like the Canon 6D, but it also works on Canon's crop sensor cameras. And with an adapter, you can also use it on mirrorless cameras. Pancake lenses are good options for these smaller cameras as they do not add too much size to the whole setup. Third thing, focal length. 40mm on a full-frame camera gives a lot of flexibility, as you can use this lens for portraits, street photography, and even inside in narrow spaces. If you mount it on a crop sensor camera, due to the crop factor, the full-frame equivalent will become 64mm. Next up, size and weight. This is one of the smallest lenses in the world. It will make your camera only 2.3 centimeters longer, that's less than an inch. Also, the 125 gram weight makes you wonder if you even have a lens mounted to your camera. If you care about portability, this 40mm is a good choice. Mirrorless camera users, myself included, will always appreciate pancake lenses. Even if an adapter is needed, the camera keeps a small size. Minimum and maximum aperture values. This lens comes with a minimum aperture value of f2.8, which, as you will see later in my tests, delivers some nice bokeh. f2.8 means that you can also use it in low-light situations. When the night comes, if you have a full-frame camera, most of the times there will be no issues. On a crop sensor camera, from my experience, f2.8 is simply not fast enough. It can work, but you'll have to raise the ISO quite a bit. The maximum aperture value is f22, and just in case you were curious, the lens has 7 aperture blades. Let's now see the autofocus. Here, this pancake lens, by having a wide angle, is a good performer. The STM motor does a nice job. It focuses fast, accurately, and I haven't noticed any focus hunting. While doing its thing, the lens is quite silent while moving the front element, as you can hear now. It is not completely silent, but it's very discreet. Next up, image stabilization, a thing this pancake lens does not have, but luckily the 40mm wide angle won't cause too many issues for photographers. It's easy to keep the camera stable when you have a wide angle. These were the physical aspects, but now what we all want to see are the results, what this lens can actually do. Let's move to the image quality tests. First one, sharpness. In the middle of the image, at the widest aperture, we see good sharpness. An excellent result comes if we stop down just a bit to f3.5. Let's now go back to the widest aperture and see the corner where sharpness is not okay, especially on the far edge. If we stop down to f4, sharpness looks good, but there are issues in the extreme corners, the portion of the image that is farther away from the center. There is an improvement at f5.6, but if we want to see a good result on the far edge, we'll have to stop down to f8. The image stays sharp until we reach f11, it's still okay at f14, but at f16 and beyond, the effects of diffraction are softening the image. So, on a full-frame camera, we always get good sharpness in the middle of the image, and the corners are just okay because the lens doesn't do well if we look on the far edge of the image. Let's now see the results on a crop sensor camera. Same as before, we get good sharpness in the middle of the image at the widest aperture, and for an excellent result, we'll have to stop down to f3.5. If we look at the corner at f2.8, because the image is more zoomed in due to the crop factor, sharpness is looking good, better than what we previously saw on a full-frame camera. At f4, the image looks great, and for an excellent performance, we'll have to stop down to f5.6. On a crop sensor camera, my copy of the lens showed good results, better than what we saw on a full-frame camera due to the crop factor that zooms in and solves the corner issue. Next up, distortion and vignetting. Since there are no issues on an APS-C sensor camera, we'll test the results on full frame, where the wide angle shows a small barrel distortion. Not bad, nor great. Now, if we stop down to f2.8, those corners are very dark with the peripheral illumination correction turned off. An improvement in the corners comes at f4 and f5.6. If we keep the peripheral illumination corrections on, even at the widest aperture, those dark corners will light up. Moving to close-up image quality. We are now at 30 cm away from our subject, the minimum focusing distance of this lens. At f2.8, we see good sharpness, and if we stop down to f3.5, we already get an excellent result, so a good performance on close-ups. Moving to bright light performance. When the sun rays are perpendicular to the lens, we do see a small loss in contrast and some flaring. But luckily, flaring quickly starts fading away if our light source doesn't hit the glass head-on. Last one, bokeh. By having a wide angle, I wasn't expecting much bokeh, but this pancake lens separates our subject from the background quite well. Even if we get 2 steps back, our subject still pops out. If we get closer, the bokeh is a bit harsh, but okay. And in close-ups, the background is nicely dissolved. For sure, the 40mm f2.8 can be a good choice for portraits. Let's see the results again. 2 meters away from our subject, where despite the distance, our subject pops, moving 1 step forward for more blur, and in close-ups, the f2.8 aperture does quite a good job. A nice result on bokeh for a wide-angle lens that is also not very fast. In conclusion, Canon's 40mm pancake lens for DSLRs with its small size and wide angle will forever be a good choice for those that want portability and versatility. Although it might not excel in all image quality tests, it is good enough for most situations. If you enjoyed this video, press that like button and I'll see you in the next lens review. Take care, guys.